My name is Abigail, but to my family I was always just Abby. Convenient, invisible Abby. At 26, I had become something of a built-in appliance in my parents' huge house. Always on hand when something needed fixing, a bill needed paying online, or the dog needed watching, but absolutely invisible when it came to life's joys. I work as a junior financial analyst, a job that demands meticulousness and attention to detail. Qualities my family always exploited but never valued. I am the one who remembers distant relatives' birthdays, the one who spends hours on the phone with the insurance company, the one who silently clears the table after another loud family dinner where no one listened to a word I said. It all began on a rainy Tuesday that would forever divide my life into before and after. I was sitting at the dining table, finishing my salad, while an aura of anticipation hung in the air around me, thick and sweet like syrup. My father, Mark, a large man with a booming voice and eternal confidence in his own rightness, had just finished boasting about a new contract for his construction business. My mother, Sarah, a sophisticated blonde whose life revolved around charity galas and maintaining a perfect facade, fluttered around the kitchen with her phone pressed to her ear, discussing the details of an upcoming trip. My brother Josh, the 28-year-old golden boy and vice president of Dad's company, was lazily scrolling through sports news on his tablet. And my sister Emily, a 22-year-old carbon copy of our mother, was taking selfies against the backdrop of the window, behind which the sky wept. And the cabins are just divine, with a private balcony. Can you imagine Martha, 10 days in the Caribbean on the most luxurious liner in the world? Mom chirped into the phone. I felt a chill run down my spine. Cruise. They were talking about the cruise again. I had heard snippets of phrases for the past couple of weeks, but every time I entered the room, the conversation would stop. Mom ended the call and turned to the family, beaming. It's all confirmed. We fly out next Saturday. It's going to be the vacation of a lifetime. Josh looked up from his tablet. Excellent. I could use a break. Emily squealed with delight. I've already made a list of outfits. Mom will have to go shopping. Urgently. Dad nodded with satisfaction. We've earned it. It's been a tough year. They spoke as if I wasn't in the room. I sat there, clutching my fork, feeling the salad in my stomach turn to stone. Finally I gathered the courage and asked quietly, "And, what about me?" 4 pairs of eyes stared at me. There was no anger or regret in them. There was a slight surprise mixed with annoyance, as if an old chair had suddenly spoken. Mom walked over and patted me on the shoulder patronizingly. Her touch was as cold as marble. "Sweetheart, we would have loved to, but..." "There are no more spots," Dad cut in, not looking up from his newspaper. "We booked a package for 4. It was a good deal." "There just wasn't a place for you, Abby," Josh drawled lazily, smirking. "You can't tag along with us forever." Emily snorted. "Besides, what would you even do there? You get seasick in a car. You'd just ruin everyone's fun." Their words weren't knives. Knives leave clean wounds. These were dull, rusty tools that mangled, tore, and crushed something living inside me. They didn't shout, they didn't argue. They simply stated a fact. I was superfluous. An element that didn't fit into their perfect picture of the world. An unprofitable addition to the package for 4. "But I could have bought my own ticket," I stammered, feeling my face burn. Mom sighed with feigned sympathy. "Abby, darling, don't make things complicated. All the cabins in that section of the ship are sold out. We want to be all together. Besides, someone has to look after the house and Caesar." She nodded toward our golden retriever, who was sleeping at my feet. "You know he can't be without you." In that moment I understood. The dog was more important. The dog was part of their life, and I was merely the staff hired to maintain that life. I stood up silently, took my plate to the sink, and without another word, went up to my room. I could hear their cheerful chatter resume as soon as I was out of sight. They hadn't even noticed I was gone. I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling. My father's phrase echoed in my ears. "We've earned it." And me. Hadn't I earned it? I, who spent 3 sleepless nights checking their tax returns so they would get the maximum refund. I, who cancelled my own vacation because Dad had a crisis at work and needed someone reliable to handle the paperwork. I, who comforted Emily after her latest breakup while Mom was at the spa. In my chest, something new was beginning to form in place of the pain. Something cold, hard, and heavy. It wasn't despair. It was clarity. Final, ruthless clarity. I lay like that for several hours. And then I remembered. A conversation from about 3 years ago. Dad was once again swamped with business and real estate documents. He hated bureaucracy. "Abby," he had said then, popping his head into my room. "You're the smartest and most responsible one among us. I want to give you a general power of attorney over all the assets, so you can sign papers for me when I'm away or just don't want to bother. It'll be easier." I had felt a surge of pride then. Finally. He had finally recognized my worth. Of course I agreed. We went to a notary, and I signed the papers without reading them too closely. This was my father after all. I trusted him. A power of attorney with the right to sell and delegate. The broadest possible authority. He put his copy in the safe and forgot about it. I put mine in a desk drawer. He saw me as a convenient tool, a free lawyer and secretary. He didn't see me as a person capable of making her own decisions. And that was his fatal mistake. I got up from the bed and walked to my desk. I pulled open the drawer. There it was, the folder with the document. General power of attorney for Abigail and Martin. Granting the right to manage and dispose of all movable and immovable property belonging to Mark and Sarah Martin. I ran my fingers over my signature. My hands weren't shaking. There was a deafening silence in my head, in which a plan was being born. Clear, detailed, and merciless. They wanted the vacation of a lifetime. I would give it to them. One they would never forget. They left me to look after the house. Oh, I would look after it. I would look after everything. For the last time. The next week became a blur of feigned politeness. I helped Emily pack her endless dresses, listened to Mom's raptures about the upcoming excursions, and even helped Dad find his favorite cufflinks. I smiled, nodded, and wished them a wonderful trip. My compliance lulled their suspicions. They saw what they wanted to see. The obedient daughter, Abby, who had accepted her fate. On Saturday morning, I drove them to the airport in their own brand-new Lincoln Navigator. They unloaded their suitcases, laughing and making plans. "Don't get too bored here, Abby." Josh tossed over his shoulder, clapping me on the back. "And don't forget to water the orchids," Mom added, kissing my cheek. Her kiss smelled of expensive perfume and betrayal. Dad slipped a few $100 bills into my hand. "Here for pizza and a movie. Have some fun." I watched them walk into the terminal, the perfect American family, radiant and self-satisfied. I stood there until their figures dissolved into the crowd. Then I slowly returned to the car. In the vast, leather-scented interior, I was alone. I looked at the money in my hand and laughed. A quiet, choked laugh that grew into hysterical sobs. Have some fun. Oh yes, I was going to have more fun than I'd ever had in my life. When I got home, the first thing I did was take a long, hot shower, washing away their touches, their smells, their presence. Out of the shower, I put on my best business suit. Abigail, the financial analyst, was entering the game. My first call was to Richard Haynes, the most aggressive and successful realtor in our city. He was known for being able to sell ice to Eskimos, and he did it fast. "Richard, it's Abigail Martin." "Yes, Mark Martin's daughter. I have a business proposal for you. I want to sell the house at 12 Oak Lane. Urgently." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Abigail, does your father know about this? I am acting under a general power of attorney. All documents are in order. I need the fastest possible sale. I'm willing to offer a significant discount for speed. And Richard, complete confidentiality. No online listings with photos. Only private showings to vetted clients. Your commission will be higher than usual." Money. He understood that word. 2 hours later, he was at my door with a contract. He glanced over the power of attorney. his eyebrows shooting up in surprise, but his professionalism took over. "The house is in perfect condition. With a discount like this, I'll find a buyer in 3 days," he said, rubbing his hands together. Next was the car dealer who specialized in pre-owned luxury vehicles. The Lincoln Navigator, Mom's Mercedes-Benz, and Josh's BMW sports car. "I need the money today. Cash or a cashier's check." The dealer, sensing the smell of desperation, or in my case determination, offered a price 30% below market value. I agreed without hesitation. 4 hours later, the cars were gone from our garage, and a substantial sum appeared in my bank account. The hardest part was my father's business, Martin Construction. But I had a plan for that too. I knew their main competitor, Henderson Corporation, had long been trying to acquire Dad's company. Dad had always proudly refused. I called Leo Henderson directly. My call had the effect of a bombshell. I introduced myself and explained the situation. Mark Martin had decided to retire for health reasons and had authorized me to handle the sale of the company. I was prepared to sell everything: assets, contracts, client base, for a price Henderson couldn't refuse. The days that followed were filled with meetings, negotiations, and signing endless papers. I slept 3 or 4 hours a night, fueled by coffee and adrenaline. Henderson's lawyers scrutinized every document, every comma. My power of attorney was flawless. They couldn't believe their luck. In parallel, I dealt with the house. Richard brought buyers, a wealthy couple from California who wanted to move in immediately. They were thrilled with the house, the furniture, even Mom's orchids. We shook on it. Every evening I checked Instagram. My family was generously sharing their happiness. Here they are with cocktails by the pool. Here's Emily posing in a bikini against the azure sea. Here's Josh trying his hand at rock climbing on the ship's wall. And here's a group photo from the captain's dinner. They were all smiling, their faces glowing with tans and carefree joy. The caption under the photo read, "The best moments with the best people. #family, #cruise, #paradise." I looked at their happy faces, and the cold rage inside me turned into pure, distilled energy. Every smile, every like under their post, only strengthened my resolve. They were creating digital memories, unaware that I was erasing their real life. Hired movers. They carefully packed everything that held any value to me. My books, a few childhood photos where I still believed I was loved, my grandmother's china set that I had always adored. Everything else, their clothes, my mother's jewelry, my father's watch collection, Josh's trophies, Emily's designer bags, was left behind. The new owners of the house agreed to buy it all with the furnishings. The day before their return, the sale of the business was finalized. The money was transferred to a new trust account opened in my name at a different bank. The house was officially sold. I sat on the floor of my now former room, in a completely empty house. It smelled of paint and cleaning supplies. The new owners had already started some minor renovations. I picked up my phone and opened Instagram one last time. A new batch of photos. They were in Jamaica. Happy, relaxed. The last evening of their perfect vacation. I blocked their numbers. All 4 of them. Then I wrote a single message in the family group chat. "Hope you had a great vacation. Surprise is waiting for you. P.S. There's no more room." And I left the chat. Deleted it forever. I took Caesar with me. He was the only one who had ever loved me unconditionally. We rented a small apartment on the other side of town. The next day, I sat in a cafe across the street from 12 Oak Lane, my former home. I drank my latte and waited. Around 4 in the afternoon, a taxi pulled up. They came. Tan, tired but happy. They were laughing as they pulled out their souvenirs and suitcases. And then they froze. Dad was the first to notice. He stared at the lawn, where a new sign with the name, The Walkers, stood in place of our family nameplate. Then his eyes darted to the house. The windows were different. The front door was repainted. "What the hell?" he growled. Mom pressed a hand to her mouth. "Mark, what's happening? Did we come to the wrong address?" Josh went to the door and started jiggling the handle. It's locked. And the doorbell is different. Emily pulled out her phone. I'll call Abby. She must know something. Weird, I can't get through to her. They all started dialing my number. Over and over. Their expressions changed. The blissful vacation glow gave way to bewilderment, then anxiety, and then creeping panic. Dad went to the living room window and peered inside. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I saw his face twist with rage and incomprehension. He started pounding on the door with his fist. Open up. This is my house. That moment the door opened. A woman in her 40s appeared on the threshold. Mrs. Walker. Can I help you? She asked politely but firmly. What are you doing in my house? Dad yelled. I'm sorry, but this is my house, the woman replied, pointing to the new nameplate. We bought it last week from a Miss Martin. A very lovely young woman. The word bought sounded like a gunshot. They all froze. Mom slowly sank onto a suitcase. Emily started to cry. Josh looked like he'd been punched. Dad took out his phone and presumably started calling the bank, the office. I watched him grow paler by the second. I watched his self-assurance evaporate, leaving only the flaccid shell of a confused, betrayed old man. I finished my coffee, left a generous tip on the table, and walked out of the cafe. I walked past them on the other side of the street. They were so consumed by their own disaster that they didn't notice me. They stood on the side of the road, surrounded by their useless suitcases, a pathetic band of exiles from a paradise of their own making. I felt no glee, no satisfaction. Only emptiness. A vast, icy void where my love for my family used to be. I had burned the bridges, and the ashes had settled in my soul. I walked on without looking back. Caesar trotted beside me on his leash. Ahead of me was a new life, one I would build myself on my own terms. A life where there would always be a place for me. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left, and thank you for watching.